I'm going to show you how to make a traditional bechamel. It's an integral part of our moussaka that we're making today, but this is going to go amazingly well whenever you're making like mac and cheese, any kind of cream sauce. This is also called a mother sauce, which is basically a foundational sauce that you can make all kinds of different things from. Alfredo, you can make a Mornay. It's basically just a roux thickened milk, and you can add whatever seasonings you want with it. So it's really simple. So whenever you make a roux, you're gonna go half fat, half flour. Here we're using half a cup of whole butter, unsalted. And the reason why we're using unsalted is like we like to control the amount of salt that's going into a dish. And here we're gonna use a whisk, because as I add the flour, I wanna get the lumps out, okay? So this goes in. You don't really want it to brown. If it's getting too dark on you, just kind of take it off the heat for a second, like I'm doing here, or lower the heat. You just want it to get the butter melted. Brown butter tastes delicious. You can do it brown as well, especially if you're making like a roux for like a gumbo, where you're gonna really cook it brown. But this bechamel is gonna be more pale or white, so we're not gonna brown the butter. We're gonna add the flour in, half a cup. Now this doesn't even have to be butter. You can do a roux with olive oil or duck fat or beef fat. But for traditional bechamel and for what we're looking to do with it today as a topping for our moussaka, we're going to use butter. This is the way you'd probably make a cream sauce for a lasagna. Just a really great sauce to have in your repertoire. So here we want to cook out the flour a little bit. We just don't want the raw taste of the flour. We're not looking for any color. We're just looking for no lumps, and we're looking to cook out a little bit of that raw flour taste. And right when I start to smell it, it's nutty, when I can really smell the flour starting to toast, then I know I'm ready to move on to the next step, which is introducing the milk. So traditionally you want to have a hot roux and cold milk, or you want a cold roux and hot milk. And just the way it works out is that if you do that and you whisk in slowly, you're less likely to get lumps. So here we have a hot roux and we have cold milk. This is whole milk. Just pour slowly. I like to add it into increments and bring each increment just to a simmer. That allows me to turn it into a paste, which also helps me keep it less lumpy. If you get lumpy on you, don't worry about it. You can hit it with an immersion blender. You can run it through a fine sieve to take out those lumps. You can put it in a regular blender. Here I just like to take my time so I could skip that step entirely. And since I'm whisking constantly, I'm going to turn the heat up so I can bring it to a boil. Since I'm watching it, I know it's not going to burn on me. And each addition, as it turns into a paste, I'm going to add more milk. Now that we have a nice smooth paste, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the rest of the milk. Now here's the thing about making any kind of roux thickened sauce, like bechamel, or even if this was chicken stock and I was thickening it with a roux, but by the way, that's called a velouté, another mother sauce, is that it doesn't come to the full thickening power until you boil it. So the flour doesn't come to its full gelling process until it comes up to that boiling temperature. So right now it looks really thin and clumpy and weird. As you whisk in the flour and you get the clumps out, and as this temperature rises and comes to a boil, you'll see this go from the viscosity of milk to the viscosity of like a pancake batter or a thick heavy cream. So just trust the process, keep whisking, wait till it comes to a boil. Don't be tempted to add more flour or more roux. It's going to get to the thickening that you want. Also, what we're going to do here is really traditional, which is called a liaison, which is a French term for fortifying this with egg yolks. So egg yolks are also going to lend its protein, and as it cooks, it's going to thicken the sauce as well. It's going to give it flavor, it's going to give it color, richness, but eggs are a little bit more temperamental. If you add eggs to this hot milk, it's going to just turn into like egg drop soup or scrambled eggs. So you want to temper the egg yolks in there slowly, but what I like to do also is wait till the roux has already thickened, come to a boil, it's more stable. So less likely for the eggs to break in there. So once I get this to boil, then we're going to introduce our egg yolks and some of our flavor that we're going to add to this bechamel. But one tip here is you definitely want to constantly whisk. It's worth the time to not walk away from this, just because the flour in there and the natural sugars in the milk, it will have a tendency to stick and burn on the bottom. So just turn it up and just watch it. It won't take too long. Make sure you get those edges where those flour can hide. There we go. Starting to see some bubbles, and you can see right before your eyes, it's like magic. Starting to thicken up. Now that we have it bubbling away, you can see how much thicker it is. We're going to let it just simmer for just another 30 seconds to really have a chance for all that flour to have a chance to come up to a boil. Keep whisking it. You can see how much thicker it's getting by the second. And now this is as thick as this is going to be. It'll get thicker if it cools off for sure, as it naturally dehydrates. But this is going to be the thickness of your sauce. So at this point, if you wanted it looser, you'd add more milk. If you wanted it thicker, you can make some more roux and add it to it and keep cooking it. But this is exactly what we want. So we're going to turn off the heat and we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So the rest of our ingredients are going to be nutmeg, real traditional in bechamel. Nutmeg and cream sauces are just, they're a match made in heaven. So I'm just going to give it a good heavy pinch. You can go as heavy as you like on this, but we have some nutmeg in the rest of the dish that we're using. So I'm just going to put a good heavy pinch, stir that in. All right, so we have our nutmeg in there. We're going to add a good half cup of Parmesan. You can add up to a cup depending on how cheesy you want to make it. But technically right now you have Alfredo sauce. Parmesan, nutmeg, roux thickened milk. Add this to some linguine, some grilled chicken, you're good. All right, our last step is going to be the egg yolks, or the fortification of it with these egg yolks. It's a good idea to put a little bit of hot liquid in here and whisk it up. Or if you're going to whisk really quickly and go one at a time, you can do that as well. So we're just going to let one egg drop in, and then I'm going to break it up and then just whisk it really quickly. And like I said, with it being roux thickened and the cheese in there, everything is a little bit more stable now, so less likely it's going to turn into scrambled eggs. But I can't just let it plop in there and sit there for any time or else it'll cook. So once it gets in there, dropping two in there is fine as well. You just got to whisk quicker. You can see it now thickening up even further as the heat of this bechamel is cooking those egg yolks. At this point, you don't want to bring it back to a boil. You just want the eggs to kind of cook in that residual heat. And this is going to go on top of our dish and bake in the oven as well. So we'll definitely have a chance to get those eggs cooked all the way through. And there you have it, a traditional bechamel. Use this for all kinds of pasta dishes. We're going to be using it today for our moussaka. And if you like this, please subscribe to our channel. We'd love to share more recipes with you.